The Trumpet Daily from Jerusalem.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Trumpet Daily. We've got several things to update you on regarding the radicalization of Egypt. Last week, over 10,000 protesters stormed Tahrir Square in Cairo. They were calling for Islamic Sharia law to play a more prominent role in the drafting of Egypt's new constitution. For many Egyptians, it's not enough for the constitution to be based on the principles of Sharia law. They want Sharia to be the foundation of Egyptian law. Now, the current dispute over the wording may not even matter in the end, since the panel responsible for drafting the constitution is led by the Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt's president, Mohammed Morsi, is also a member of the Brotherhood, and in recent weeks, he hasn't exactly concealed his hostility toward Israel. On October 24th, Morsi said, "We cannot rest or relax if we see our Palestinian brothers and sisters attacked, blockaded, and cornered." That statement was taken from the Muslim Brotherhood's own website. He said, "We are not declaring war on anyone, but we announce clearly that the Palestinian people will not be abandoned. We stand with them against any aggression." Now, a few days later, Morsi praised all martyrs and Muslims, especially those in Syria and the Gaza Strip, according to Amram Online. These remarks follow the controversy that arose in October when Morsi was caught mouthing "Amen" to an influential imam's prayer that said, "O Allah, grant us victory over the infidels. O Allah, destroy the Jews and their supporters." More recently, it has just surfaced that Morsi's remarks at the UN in support of Palestinian resistance were not in the original pre-written statement that he gave to the UN. In fact, the speech he submitted and the one he actually gave differed in two key ways. In the submitted notes, Morsi offered Egypt's continued commitment to the Camp David Accord, but his actual address left that statement out. And instead of his written endorsement of the Saudi-initiated Arab Plan, which would exchange pan-Arab recognition of Israel for Israel's return to the 1967 borders, Morsi instead endorsed Palestinian statehood without noting whether his vision would accommodate Israel. Ephraim Zuroff of the Simon Wiesenthal Center told FoxNews.com, "There is no question that the rise to power of the Muslim Brotherhood has prompted open expressions of anti-Semitism in ways that were never publicly expressed during the Mubarak period." He continued, "The undercurrent of Islamism from people who down the line would want to apply Sharia law in its most fundamental sense is a serious cause for concern." Now, as you know, we predicted back in 1994 that Egypt would undergo a radical change, and now it's happened. The evidence is there for everyone to see. And yet, incredibly, there are still many world leaders and commentators who refuse to see it. Last week, the head of Israel's Diplomatic Security Bureau, Amos Gilad, made the mistake of saying that Egypt's attempt at democracy had resulted in a terrible dictatorship. Now, he was rebuked by the higher-ups in Israel's government for merely stating the truth. Let me read what one commentator wrote last week in defense of Gilad. "Anyone with eyes in his head and who has even the slightest knowledge about what is happening in Egypt knows that his description absolutely hits the nail on the head. Not only would several million Israelis endorse Gilad's statement, were they asked their opinion of the regime in Egypt, several million Egyptians would also agree with it. Among them would be all those who have awakened from the euphoria of the Arab Spring and discovered that they have tumbled from the frying pan into the fire. Instead of President Hosni Mubarak, they now have the Muslim Brotherhood." Many Egyptians are very apprehensive these days that their country's new constitution, now entering the stage of final formulation, will change the principle in the old constitution from Mubarak's day, stating that Egyptian legislation must be based on the principles of Sharia, to a more explicit declaration stipulating unequivocally that Egyptian law is completely based on Sharia, pure and simple. A small difference that is really huge. Now, as it happens, the day Haaretz printed that piece, is when those thousands of Egyptians marched in Tahrir Square calling for Sharia law. It was hoped that the Arab Spring would bring about a rise in democracy, the article concluded, but that simply has not been the case. Now, make sure you request a copy of The King of the South. That booklet reveals where this new Iranian-Egyptian alliance is leading. You can also download a copy of the booklet at thetrumpet.com. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again next time on the Trumpet Daily.